7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Tommy and Ellie welcoming you to another CROC podcast for the most amazing group of people in the entire universe, our cancer survivors. Angel Santana, have faith, let it begin on the other side of the computer. Angel, good morning.
Hello, CROC Nation. It is another day, another opportunity for us to come together, and I cannot wait to see what we have in store for the CROC Nation today.
Well, Angel, I'm glad you brought that up because we're going to continue what I think is going to be a very important series for our survivors, In Search of the Person You Want to Be. So to give you guys just a recap, like it's a Batman 1964, 1966 episode where there's a cliffhanger and then you come back the next week and they show you a little bit of the past. We'll do that same Bat stuff. So basically part one was sort of an introduction into a very serious and I hope provocative question of who we really are. And what we basically grappled with on that first podcast in that first part of the series was, do we really know who we are? I mean, we think we know who we are, but do we really know who that inner person is? Do we know all aspects and facets of our personalities? Do we know how we are actually being received by others? You know, we share this earth with humans, both survivors and non-survivors, and perhaps what we have in our mind, the way we think that we're interacting with everyone isn't exactly the way it's being received correctly. So I would say that the answer to that question is most people really don't know their inner themselves. And the reason why we brought this entire series up is we believe that our cancer survivors could benefit from that knowledge, and I'll explain to you why. In part two, we started by discussing the confrontation of our past. So what were some of the traumas that we might have had in childhood? What were some of the mistakes that our parents made? Some of these traumas, first of all, everyone has had trauma. Hopefully, most of us have had minor trauma. Some of us have had very major trauma. And we were starting to open the doors of having you guys think and contemplate some of the things that happened to you as a youngster, even going back as far as you can in your mind and maybe even meditating and trying to go back to some of the times that you may not remember consciously. And today we're going to continue with what I call a brief glimpse into the dark side of our moon. So when I say Dark Side of the Moon, we all think of Pink Floyd's amazingly remarkable and seminal album, but it also indicates or is a metaphor for the moon. We watch the moon rise twice a day, and we see that beautiful, beautiful bright moon, and we watch the sliver, which goes into the quarter, which goes into the half, which goes into the three-quarter, and then it goes into the absolutely beautiful full moon. But what goes on, that's the only face of the moon that we see. And that's an analogy where I think most of humanity sees only that part of us, that lighted part of our personality, that illuminated part of who we are. But on the other side, there is a dark side to the moon and there is a dark side to us. And I think it's important that we begin our quest to find out who we are in order to become the person that we envision or who we want to be. And I think it's important that we confront our underbelly and that dark side and be okay with it. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about today, Angel.
Absolutely fantastic. I'm excited. I think this is another addition to the episodes that we have as we get closer and closer to 100. Let's just get right into it.
Awesome. So I guess one of the questions I ask myself, and even I'm wondering if this is an appropriate series for our survivors/thrivers, is this a subject that our cancer survivors really care to even learn about? And I really believe in my heart of hearts that it is relevant to them. And there is a reason. And because this CROC podcast is all about our survivors, trying to give them tools to make their survivorship easier, make their survivorship and their life journey more pleasant, and to give them ideas and concepts and tools and remedies and shortcuts on how to better their health. And, I keep saying in my mind, why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing a series on immunotherapy and explaining that? Why aren't we doing more episodes on post-treatment side effects? Why aren't we doing more medical team blunders and shortcomings? And we certainly do our share of them. But I really believe in my heart of hearts that this is relevant and important for our survivors. And I'm going to tell you why. And I said this in the previous 2 podcasts. Cancer has already broken your false sense of security and the immortality that the majority of the population who haven't been confronted by that ugly face of cancer continue to dwell in. So it's my opinion that it's the perfect time, not an inappropriate time, but the perfect time to leverage your advantage and take you to levels of insight and clarity that's not really available or experienced by the general population. So that is my explanation, Angel, on why I think this is an important topic.
Well said. I'm glued to the actual screen. I cannot believe we're hitting on this topic. I mean, I can believe it. I think that we are continuing to listen to our audience, to listen to our board of directors, and I think this is what it's all about.
Yeah, and like I said, I think in either last week or the week before, I really believe, and this is me included, and I'll have you chime in, I don't really think we have a clue as to who we really are deep down, that really inner, deep self. And I don't think there's a person that thinks who they are is who they actually are. And I think that we need to know this before we become the best us. So last week I said we touched upon some of the traumas that helped shape us. And today we're going to take it one step further. Now, when I say it's a baby step. These are very small modules, little small podcasts to keep you interested, to keep you informed, but we want to keep it short, want to keep it sweet. So this is a baby step. It's a real introduction, again, to our dark side. It's just an introduction. We're not diving deeply yet. We're just acknowledging that this exists, and we're going to introduce ourselves to that dark side of us. And I have to tell you, every single person, every single human, it's part of the human experience to have a dark side. It's in our nature. It's in our DNA. We are evolved evolutionary creatures, and we're wired to our core, to our soul, to survive at any expense. And we are, and will always be. When I was a kid and Disney would be on Sunday nights at 6:00, the commercials would be Mutual of Omaha, with Merlin Perkins and selling insurance, and they would show them in the Serengeti, and they would have all the animals chasing each other and ripping each other apart. That's us. I mean, that's us evolutionarily. Less so now. Like, we're not hunting woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers or fighting opposing clans to compete for limited shelter or for our safety or for the limited resources. We have become, quote unquote, civilized. And of course, I say that tongue in cheek because we are far from civilized. So we all believe that animals are probably far more civilized than we are. But we could basically look at a saber-tooth. We can now shop for our saber-tooth fillet, at Trader Joe's or at Hannaford's or at, Whole Foods. And in that sense, that need and imperative to hunt for our food is no longer there, but we still have that imperative to, quote unquote, win at any cost. That is in us. And where it comes out everywhere. It comes out in sporting events. I was absolutely horrified to hear maybe 6 months ago, there was a pro football player who was, on ESP, who had a job now. He retired. He was, had a what would you say, a commentator job for ESPN, and his career was just taking off. And he and his brother were co-coaching a midget football team. So we're talking about maybe 8-year-old kids. And the two coaches got in a fight, and one of the coaches took out a gun and shot the other coach. So this is an 8-year-old football game, right? This is not someone hunting a gazelle to live. This is just, grown people, screaming at umpires, throwing beer at players, shooting each other at sporting events, pummeling each other, running over each other, trampling each other at concerts. This is us even at leisure, going to Disney World and cutting lines so you don't have to wait 45 minutes to get on Thunder Mountain. This is everywhere. You look at the trading floor at Wall Street, there are a bunch of animals screaming. What are they screaming? Because they want to sell one extra stock certificate, and screaming and yelling because that means maybe they'll make an extra $100 or something like that. You see it in the movies. I remember the two movies that come to mind is when Jerry Maguire is at lunch with his best friend, quote unquote, and while he's at lunch, everyone's stealing all of his clients because they think he went crazy. Or in an old movie back in the 80s, Kramer versus Kramer, when the guy's best friend, Dustin Hoffman's best friend, takes him out to lunch to fire him because his wife left him, and he was stuck with his 5-year-old kid, and he was just trying to figure it out, and he was a little distracted at work, and one sign of weakness and he was gone, baby, gone. So this dark side is in us. It's ingrained in us, and we all have been guilty, every single one of us, even my blessed Angel Santana, saint of saints. Everyone is guilty of something. Maybe it's minor. Maybe sometimes it could be something major, but make no mistake, we have all done shameful, selfish, mean, unkind, hurtful, and damaging things to others. There is just no way around it. But, Angel, there's always a but. This is not the place that you will ever get yelled at or made to feel bad. This is a podcast about uplifting you, uplifting our survivors, and our purpose is never to make anyone feel bad or feel regretful. It's actually the opposite. It's to uplift our survivors, to purify our survivors, to sanctify their journey. That's all we're all about. But how can we now say those things now that we made that accusatory statement? That statement is, we all have a dark side of the moon. We all have that dark underbelly. So how dare us be able to say two things at once, because they're contradictory, right? So it's really easy. What our goal on this particular podcast is to let you know what the reality is. Once we identify, we know that identification leads to insight. We know that insight leads to contrition, and we know that contrition leads to redemption. And by identifying, accepting, and introducing yourself to your darkness, you will suppress the historical, metaphorical Mr. Hyde in favor of the Dr. Jekyll. And I'll tell you a personal story. Again, I try not to make it personal because this podcast is not about me. It's about our survivors. But there was a period of time, I was a preteen, really young, and I went through a period of time, and I don't even know why, because I never was denied anything. I mean, we didn't have much, but whatever I ever wanted, I got for the most part. I just noticed my grandfather was leaving some loose change, around, my bedroom. So I would take the loose change and I would go down to the 5 and 10. And, my grandfather would say, "Did you happen to take any quarters?" Or, no, Gramps, I didn't do that. And I went down to the 5 and 10, and I'll never forget, I had a pocket full of his money. I mean, I had probably $5 of quarters in my pocket. And I saw this fluorescent paint. It was like down the craft aisle at the 5 and 10 down in North Haledon, New Jersey. and one of it was like fluorescent pink and one was fluorescent green. So what I did was, did I take those two things to the counter to do what I have no idea what I would do with it, by the way. It wasn't like I was a crafty artist or anything, or even knew how to do anything with the paint. But I guess I saw it. It was like looking at something that was glamorous or glittery or colorful, caught my eye. And instead, I just put it in my pocket, just put it in my pocket. In the back of the store, the manager, he was a World War II vet, probably a war hero with the whole buzz cut, the Marine look and the whole thing. He saw me do that and he took me aside, and God bless that guy. I don't know what his name was, but he caught me red-handed and he saw that I had the money to pay for it. And he asked me to explain myself and I really couldn't. Took me in the back, called my grandfather. My grandfather came to get me. And not my mother or my grandfather. No one ever yelled at me. I never got yelled at. I never got spoken to about it. It was just such an eye-opening experience for the first time confronting, even as an 8-year-old kid, that dark side, that wanted to screw somebody over, that wanted to steal from somebody, who wanted to take something that wasn't theirs. And Angel, this is the God honest truth. From that moment, if somebody dropped $100 bill in front of me, I would pick it up and I'd tap them on the shoulder and I would say, you dropped this. I never to this day have ever taken anything ever again. And I think that that's an analogy of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to find that 8-year-old kid in you that might have done something, and try to introduce yourself to that 8-year-old kid and try to get to know yourself a little better. Where did that come from? And that really leads me to the process of searching for the person that you want to be, because it is time consuming and it is painful at times, but believe me, it's exhilarating and it's purging, and it will ultimately strengthen you, especially our survivors. The truly knowing yourself, knowing the you that you are, not living a lie, not living in deception, and ultimately you will become stronger, a stronger survival of this brutal illness that we call cancer. And just to give you a little teaser, Angel, moving forward, next week, we're going to be going a little deeper and we're going to uncover some of the deep hidden motivations that make us behave the way we do. And then the following week, we're going to teach our survivors how to take their psychic vital signs. So if you come to my office, my nurses will weigh you. They'll check your blood pressure. They'll check your pulse. They'll check your pulse oximeter. They'll make sure that all your vital signs are good. And then I'll come in and I'll look at all that information and it'll give me kind of a read of where you are in real time. But how about on the psychic side? Let's learn how to take our psychic pulse, our psychic blood pressure, our psychic pulse oximeter, to be able to monitor how we're doing and where we are. Angel Santana, your thoughts?
I think a lot of us are able to relate to this episode. As you were, sharing your personal testimony there about, being, 8 years old and your grandfather, it got me thinking of the time when I accidentally put gum. I was going to pay for it and I took a piece out, chewed it, and then the rest went in my pocket. Lucky for me, nobody did see me, but when I hit the parking lot, I realized that I had taken the gum and went back and paid for it. So I know how that feels. It's one of those things where you go, wow. So in your case, you got caught. I didn't, but I learned from that mistake because I figured, oh my God, what would have happened if I did? So I get what you're getting at. And I think that overall, we have to look deep down inside as to who we are. We realize that we're not perfect. We make errors. We have flaws, but when it all comes down to it, it's who we really want to be and where we set our goals and our abilities to sit back and say, this is who I am supposed to be. And I hope everybody got exactly what they needed from this episode.
Angel Santana, it's my pleasure to share this podcast with you. We're very fortunate to have you advocate for our survivors. Thank you, everyone. Have Faith, Let It Begin every weekday. Available on all sorts of platforms that Angel will post on the website. Rod Freeman, how was Arizona, buddy? It's freezing and crazy here. Well, I'm glad you're back to suffer with us, but thank you for everything you do for us, my friend. God bless you. Small Biz Up. Michael John Benzea, Charlotte Larson, for all your support and belief in us, our board of directors. Man, I can't wait for April so we can go and eat some great Korean fried broccoli at Oak and Reed or somewhere similar. Thank you for all of your hard work and everything you do for us, and all of your advocacy for our survivors, which leads me to our pep talk, our Newt Rockney win one for the Gipper. So everybody out there, our survivors, our thrivers, we're identifying parts of us that are not attractive. And you've already gotten slapped in the face with cancer. And then you got double slapped by your surgery, your radiation, your chemotherapy. And you finally recover and you're trying to re-grasp your life. And you say to yourself, well, why am I listening to me having a bad side? And I get it, because we all do. And I think, though, if we are to recognize, identify, introduce ourselves to that, believe me, stick with me, I promise by the end of this series around this module, if there is a person that you feel you want to become, if you feel there is something that you still need in order to be stronger, not just stronger, a stronger person, a stronger friend, a stronger spouse, a stronger sibling, a stronger child, a stronger colleague, but you want to be a stronger survivor, a stronger fighter of cancer, a stronger individual that wants to leave a legacy behind, that wants to leave behind their core beliefs, their core essence that will make this world a better place. I promise that we will slow down on the negative stuff and we'll pump up the positive stuff. You guys are special. You are strong. You are amazing. You are tough. As I said, you're worthy. You are loved. You are brave. You are supported. You are courageous. You are not alone. You are a fighter, and you got this. On behalf of Angel, the entire board of directors, and everyone associated with the CROC podcast and the CROC organization, we will end as we always do, wishing you all a long, healthy, happy, cancer-free life. God bless you. God be with you. Peace.